This is one of the most confusing and painful aspects of being in relationship with an avoidant. They genuinely love you, but they don't seem to care about you in the ways that matter most. They have real feelings for you, but those feelings don't translate into consistent care, presence, or prioritization of your needs in daily life. You can feel their love in certain moments when they're relaxed and undefended, but you also feel completely uncared for in the daily reality of the relationship when you actually need support or attention. This isn't a contradiction or you misreading the situation. It's the fundamental nature of avoidant attachment. Avoidance can hold love as an abstract feeling while being completely unable or unwilling to demonstrate care as concrete action that you can actually experience. They can feel affection for you while simultaneously being indifferent to your actual well-being, needs, or emotional state. Understanding this distinction between love as feeling and care as action is crucial because it explains why the relationship feels so confusing and one-sided. You're not imagining the love, it's real, but you're also not imagining the lack of care. That's equally real and painful. Here's why avoidance can love you while not caring about you in practical ways, and what this devastating dynamic means for the relationship and your future. Love for them is a feeling they experience, not actions they take. The avoidant experiences love as an internal feeling state, not as a motivation for external behavior or action. They feel affection, attraction, attachment to you. These feelings are genuine, and they're not lying when they say they love you. But those feelings exist entirely in their internal world and don't naturally translate into caring behaviors in the external world where you can actually experience them. The avoidant can love you deeply while never showing up for you consistently, checking on you regularly, considering your needs in their decisions, or prioritizing your well-being because for them, having the feeling is love. Acting on the feeling isn't required for the love to be real in their mind. This internal experience of love means the avoidant doesn't understand why you need more than their feelings. They love you, so from their perspective, what more could you possibly want? They don't grasp that love without demonstration is meaningless to the person not experiencing their internal state. You can't feel their feelings. You can only see their actions or lack thereof. But the avoidant thinks the feeling should be enough, that you should somehow know they love you despite them not showing it in ways you can perceive or experience. This disconnect creates constant conflict because you're asking for care and they think they're already giving you love. The feeling-based love also means the avoidant can maintain it while doing things that directly contradict caring about you. They can love you while ignoring your calls for days. They can have feelings for you while dismissing your needs as too demanding. They can be attached to you while treating you as low priority below work, hobbies, or friends. These contradictions don't register as problems for them because the feelings and the behaviors exist in separate categories in their mind. Love is the feeling. Behavior is just behavior. The two don't have to align for the avoidant to believe they're being loving toward you. Care requires vulnerability they can't access. Caring about someone requires vulnerability that avoidants are fundamentally defended against. To genuinely care means being affected by someone else's pain, needs, and emotional state in ways that impact your own well-being. It means their suffering impacts you emotionally, their needs matter to you enough to inconvenience yourself. Their emotional reality influences your decisions and behaviors even when that's uncomfortable. This level of being affected feels dangerous to avoidance because it means they're not in complete control of their emotional state. Subscribe for insights into attachment psychology that reveal the deep patterns beneath avoidant behavior. If your pain can hurt them, if your needs can obligate them, if your emotions can influence them, they've lost the defended independence that keeps them feeling safe from engulfment and loss of self. The vulnerability required for care also means risking failure and guilt. When you genuinely care about someone, you can fail them. You can let them down. You cannot be enough to meet their needs. These possibilities are intolerable to avoidants who need to maintain a self-image of being fine, capable, never needing to depend on approval or validation from others. If they care about you in ways that make your opinion of them matter, they're vulnerable to feeling inadequate when they inevitably fall short, and that vulnerability triggers their defenses. It's safer to not care in ways that create accountability for their behavior or make them feel responsible for someone else's well-being. Caring also requires prioritizing someone else's needs, sometimes over your own comfort, and avoidants can't do this without feeling like they're losing themselves. The avoidant's entire identity is built on not needing anyone and not being needed by anyone. When caring would require them to be uncomfortable, inconvenienced, or challenged in their patterns, they choose their comfort over your needs because maintaining their defended self is more important than meeting your needs. This isn't conscious cruelty or malicious intent. It's their nervous system prioritizing self-protection over connection in every moment of potential vulnerability or discomfort. The vulnerability of care also means admitting you matter to them enough to affect them. Avoidants can't admit this because it gives you power over them in their mind. If they acknowledge you matter, that you affect them, that your pain hurts them or your needs obligate them, they're admitting dependence, which terrifies them. So they maintain emotional distance even while loving you, keeping the feeling internal so it can't create vulnerability through demonstrated care that would reveal how much you actually matter to them and how much power your opinion and needs have over their choices. They love the idea of you, not the reality of you. Often, what the avoidant loves is their idealized version of you, not the real complex human you actually are. They love the version of you that doesn't need too much, that accepts their limitations, that doesn't push them beyond their comfort zone. They love the idea of having you in their life as long as having you doesn't require them to change, grow, or be uncomfortable. This love for the idea rather than the reality means they can have genuine feelings while being completely disconnected from who you actually are and what you actually need. The idealized love also explains why avoidants often seem to love you more when you're not there. When you're at a distance, they can maintain their idealized version of you without confronting the reality of your needs, emotions, and humanity. They miss you, think about you, feel affection for you. But when you're present, when you have needs and feelings and expectations, the reality of you threatens their fantasy. The avoidant withdraws, not because they don't love you, but because caring about the real you would require engagement they're not capable of sustaining. Loving the idea also means the avoidant can lose interest when you show up as a full human rather than their ideal. If you express needs, show negative emotions, require support, or otherwise be complex and real, the avoidant's love can fade quickly because it was never attached to the real you. It was attached to a version of you they created that fit comfortably in their defended life. This is why avoidants can seem to love intensely at the beginning when you're still mostly an idealized fantasy, then become indifferent when you reveal your full humanity. Their nervous system prioritizes safety over connection. The avoidant's nervous system is constantly scanning for threats to their autonomy and independence. When caring about you would create situations where they feel obligated, responsible, needed, or vulnerable, their nervous system registers this as danger and shuts down their capacity for care even when the feeling of love is still present. The nervous system override happens automatically, below conscious awareness. The avoidant doesn't choose not to care. Their system shuts down care as a protection mechanism. This nervous system response explains why avoidants can be caring in moments when they don't feel threatened, then completely uncaring when the threat response activates. They might be attentive and present when everything is easy and comfortable, but the moment you need something that would require them to be vulnerable or uncomfortable, they shut down. This inconsistency isn't manipulation. It's their nervous system determining moment by moment whether caring is safe or dangerous, and when it's dangerous, The care disappears even though the underlying feelings haven't changed. The prioritization of safety also means that no amount of love will override the nervous system's protection mechanisms. The avoidant can love you more than anyone they've ever loved, but when their system determines that caring creates vulnerability they can't tolerate, the care will shut down regardless of the depth of feeling. This is why reasoning with avoidance about how much they love you doesn't work. The love isn't in question. The capacity for care when it requires vulnerability is what's missing, and that's not something logic or feelings can override without significant therapeutic work to heal the underlying wounds. Care creates obligations they can't tolerate. When you genuinely care about someone, you have obligations to them. You're obligated to consider their feelings, to show up when they need you, to prioritize their well-being sometimes over your own convenience. These obligations feel like chains to avoidance. The avoidant can love you while being completely unwilling to accept any obligation to you, because obligation means their freedom is compromised. They need to feel like they're with you by choice moment to moment, not because they owe you anything or have responsibilities to you. The intolerance for obligation explains why avoidants resist relationship progression. Moving in together, getting engaged, having children, all of these create increasing levels of obligation that make the avoidant feel trapped even if they love their partner deeply. The love doesn't make the obligations feel better. If anything, it makes them feel worse because now they're trapped by something they actually care about rather than something they can easily dismiss. The avoidant would often rather leave a relationship they love than accept the obligations that come with deepening commitment. The obligation resistance also explains why avoidants can't show up for you during difficult times. When you're sick, struggling, going through crisis, showing up for you would be an obligation they can't refuse without being obviously hurtful. This level of obligation feels suffocating. The avoidant might love you, but they can't make themselves care enough to meet obligations that feel like they're removing their choice. They need the freedom to not show up, even when not showing up reveals they don't actually care about your well-being in practical terms. They can't empathize beyond surface level. Avoidants often have limited capacity for deep empathy, which is required for genuine care. They can intellectually understand you're struggling, but they can't feel your pain in ways that motivate them to help. They can acknowledge you have needs, but they can't connect to those needs emotionally in ways that make meeting them feel important. This empathy limitation means they can love you as a concept while being emotionally disconnected from your actual lived experience. The limited empathy shows up as the avoidant seeming cold or indifferent to your pain. They might respond to your distress with logic or problem solving rather than emotional support because they're not actually feeling with you. They're observing you from a distance, analyzing your situation intellectually, but not connecting to your emotional reality. This isn't because they don't love you. It's because the empathetic connection that would allow them to feel your feelings is blocked by their defensive structure. The empathy block also means the avoidant can't understand why their behavior hurts you. You tell them their distance is painful, but they can't feel that pain, so it doesn't seem like a real problem. You explain you need more presence, but they can't connect to why that need matters, so it seems like you're being demanding. The avoidant's inability to empathize with your experience means they continue patterns that hurt you because from their perspective, which lacks emotional connection to your reality, those patterns aren't actually causing the harm you say they are. Love doesn't require maintaining the relationship. Perhaps most tellingly, the avoidant can love you while being completely willing to lose you. They can have genuine feelings, real attachment, authentic affection, and still choose to end the relationship or let it end rather than do the work to maintain it. This is because, for avoidance, love is a feeling you have, not a relationship you build and maintain. They can have the feeling while being unwilling to put in the effort, make the compromises, or do the growth required to sustain partnership. This willingness to lose what they love reveals how shallow their care actually is. If you genuinely care about someone, you fight for them. You make sacrifices. You do uncomfortable work. You grow and change. But avoidants will let relationships with people they love end rather than be uncomfortable, challenged, or required to change. The feeling of love exists, but it's not strong enough to override their need for comfort, safety, and defended independence. You matter to them, but not enough to matter more than their patterns. The willingness to lose you also shows that the avoidant doesn't actually need you despite their feelings for you. They can miss you, think about you, even suffer from losing you, while still being fundamentally fine without you because their identity isn't built on connection. They're built on independence. Love is something they feel, but it's not something they need to function, so they can survive losing it even when they wish they hadn't. This capacity to love while not needing means they can care about you in theory while being indifferent to whether you're actually in their life in practice. What this means for you in the relationship. Understanding that the avoidant loves you but doesn't care about you in functional ways should fundamentally change how you approach the relationship. Their love is real, but it's not enough. Love without care is an empty feeling that doesn't translate into the partnership, support, presence, and prioritization you need and deserve. You can't build a healthy relationship on someone's internal feelings that never manifest as caring actions. You need both love and care, and the avoidant is only capable of providing one. This understanding should also help you stop trying to prove you're worthy of their care. The lack of care isn't about your worth or value as a person. It's about their capacity and their wounds. They're not capable of caring in the ways you need, not because you don't deserve it, but because their attachment wounds prevent it. No amount of being more understanding, more patient, more accommodating, or more perfect will make them suddenly capable of care they're defended against. You could be absolutely perfect in every way, and they still wouldn't be able to care in the ways that matter because the block isn't about you at all. Understanding this dynamic also helps you see why the relationship feels so crazy-making. You're experiencing their love in moments, which makes you believe care is possible, but then experiencing their lack of care in all the ways that actually matter for building a life together. This creates cognitive dissonance that makes you question your own perception and needs. But both things are true simultaneously. They love you, and they don't care about you. This isn't a contradiction once you understand how avoidant attachment works. It's just a devastating reality. Most importantly, recognizing the love without care dynamic should empower you to leave and choose yourself. You deserve someone who both loves you and cares about you, someone whose feelings translate into actions, whose affection manifests as presence and prioritization. The avoidance love is real, but it's insufficient for a healthy relationship. You're not being too demanding by wanting more than feelings. You're being reasonable by requiring that love be demonstrated through care, consistency, and showing up. And when someone can't or won't do that, when their love exists only as a feeling they experience rather than actions they take, their love doesn't matter because love without care is just a feeling that makes you feel bad about yourself for wanting more than empty affection. You deserve love that shows up, love that cares, love that chooses you, not just as a feeling but as a priority. The avoidant can't give you that, and understanding this should free you to find someone who can.